Donnie and Dolly, the team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Just ahead of Jeff Paterson, one of our two guests of the day from Don in Sycamore. Sad to hear Jim Houston is retiring. My fondest memory is actually listening to Jim call Dawson Creek Canuck games when the airwaves were clear. Again, that's from Don in Sycamore. So, Chris, you and I, where I worked in Dawson Creek, the Canucks were the senior team up there. And Jim Houston was right. Senior hockey way back when. The Allen Cup and all that was it was a bigger deal way before that, but it was a big deal back in the 70s and 80s as well.
And before the Allen Cup came the Coy Cup, which was the BC Championship. And Dawson Creek Canucks, Fort St. John Flyers, Grand Prairie A's, Hythe, Sexsmith, all those towns within that.
Beaver Lodge 77s.
Beaver Lodge, been there, done that. Very good hockey up north. Very good hockey, senior hockey up north.
Oh, a lot of fun.
Yeah, we had good road trips.
Phil Sykes was, remember, LA Kings, Winnipeg Jets from Dawson Creek. Watched him play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jeff Paterson joining us now from Sekeres and Price on a day the Canucks are taking their physicals ahead of getting on the ice tomorrow in Abbotsford. Jeff, how are you, sir?
I'm sort of lurking in the shadows here at Rogers Arena. This is the world we live in now, trying to join you guys via Zoom. So
that's fine.
I don't have a lighting kit, but you can see that the rink is there behind me. I'm up in the sports bar here at the Rog, and hopefully you can hear me because you may not be able to see me.
I think you're in that fourth level bathroom that we talk about all the time, Jeff.
I'm going to go searching. I actually could use that fourth bathroom right now, but that's another story. So.
Yeah. Hey, Jeff, you were at the Canucks media availability. And before we get to that, Kirill Kaprizov signs with Minnesota yesterday. 5-year deal, $45 million. We hear about Rasmus Dahlin, 3 years, $6 million per. Combined, would those deals make sense for Pettersson and Hughes, in your opinion?
Well, I think Hughes probably would like more. Than Dahlin got, just based on his point totals and his time in the league. And I'm not sure that Paterson can get to something that starts with a 9, but I've always been of the belief that the Barzal contract was a pretty good comparable. I thought Paterson would come in a little bit higher. Now all of a sudden you've got a guy who, the same points per game, and yet Paterson's done it for 2.5 years, where Kaprizov's done it for 1.
Yeah.
And Paterson's younger, so he's established himself at a younger age in the National Hockey League. I do think that the Kaprizov deal certainly moves the goalposts a little bit in the eyes of the Pettersson camp. Again, I'm not sure that they can get it to a 9, but the idea of Pettersson's contract starting with a 7, I think that one's out the window now. So
big time out the window.
We'll have to wait and see on this one. But, my takeaway from just listening to Jim Benning this morning was right off the top of his availability, expressed some frustration and through this all, and you can understand why, but we hadn't heard that publicly. But there was a sense that Jim was frustrated that his best players aren't going to be available for day one of training camp out in Abbotsford tomorrow.
Clarification on Travis Hamonic. It was reported earlier today, went out on Twitter, that Travis Hamonic might not or would not be at training camp. Protocol situation. Jim Benning saying that's not the case. But what can you tell us?
Well, I was willing to believe the general manager, and again, we'll see what happens tomorrow. We'll take roll call when they step onto the ice, but Jaro Halak a moment ago was made available to the media, and I asked him if he knew anybody in the Canucks locker room or was he coming in cold, and he kind of let the cat out of the bag. He said, well, I know Travis Hamonic, but he's not here. So take that for what it's worth, but that's from the mouth of a player and a teammate. So that sort of backs up the earlier report that Hamonic may be late to camp. Jim Benning said that he believed that the team would be fully vaccinated. And again, I don't know that this is a vaccine issue, but the general manager said that he believed that the team would be fully vaccinated by opening night and that everybody else should be here. But Jim also kind of broke a little bit of news. We knew about Tyler Mott and the fact that he's rehabbing from a surgery. Brandon Sutter, yet again, is dealing with something. And it sounded a little mysterious, but Jim just said that he wasn't feeling well. Didn't think it was COVID-related, but it doesn't sound like Brandon Sutter is going to be available for day one of training camp. And Justin Bailey, whose season last year was cut short, by a shoulder surgery after a big hit from Milan Lucic. Got an opportunity to get into a couple of games for the Canucks. He tested positive for COVID, trying to get across the border. So he's going to be late to camp. In fact, he won't be part of the camp, and we'll see what it means for Justin Bailey in terms of his readiness for getting into any kind of preseason action. So, not exactly smooth for the Vancouver Canucks. Already we knew that Paterson and Hughes wouldn't be available, and now you add a few others to the list, and that just complicates matters for Travis Green, who in a perfect world would have had everybody available to him to hit the ground running, trying to build some chemistry from day one of camp. But that's going to, throw a wrench into things. But the coach does have options, and he's going to have to go to a few plan Bs here early in training camp.
Hey, Jeff, talking about Travis Green, he mentioned the lefty in the third pair. He said it's going to come down to Ulevy, Rathbone, and Hunt. And you know what? Everyone thought that Hunt's going to end up in Abbotsford. It was nice to hear him say his name right there with Ulevy and Rathbone, all three of them. He says, may the best man win.
Yeah, and I don't know if you can read too much into the day before the first on-ice sessions and the availabilities, but Jack Rathbone was among those made available to the media. And he is just such an impressive young man. We watched him, step into the National Hockey League and made it look pretty easy and scored in his, brief stint that he had, looked right at home playing defense. And, now he's had the offseason to sort of take stock of what he learned from the, whatever it was, 11 games that he got into. But boy, just listening to him, old beyond his years, mature beyond his years. He was a Harvard guy, so obviously a smart young man, and really excited to see him hit the ground running here at training camp. I kind of give him the inside track, but I am not discounting Brad Hunt and the experience that he's got in the National Hockey League, a guy that has just an absolute bomb from the point with the slap shot that, if he can make this team, maybe would be utilized in the second power play unit. So, Brad Hunt definitely with a massive edge when it comes to experience at this level. And then Olli Juolevi, let's see what another season does. He's played in the NHL now. There aren't as many questions about Olli Juolevi and if he's ever going to play in the NHL because he got into the NHL last year. So, what does he take from his brief experience and how does he apply it to training camp? Because he has to know that the heat is on and that he's got all sorts of competition for a spot on this big league roster.
So, Jeff, all summer I heard Mott might not be ready for camp. I did not know that. We're looking at 3 weeks. It could be now potentially longer. Didn't know that. But when you look at some of the candidates who could replace him, who are you looking at?
Well, first, let me just say on Mott, Rick, I think this one's fascinating because this is a contract year for him, and he's a pending unrestricted free agent. And already the lighting was bad, and now they've just gone and turned lights off.
I can't see you, Jeff. Are you okay?
I know. This is crazy. I truly feel like it's a cloak and dagger operation on
Oh,
Donnie
my
and Dalton
goodness.
here. But
It looks like we're in Dawson Creek.
We're going to start calling you Colonel Kurtz.
Tyler Mott, as much as the Canucks like him, and I think most fans love the hustle, he can't stay healthy. He's barely played for this team in the last couple of years. So first and foremost, they've got to get him up and running, and then it becomes an important year because he's 26, he's going on 27, pending a UFA. Do you commit to a player like that if he's going to get a raise, or do you look for options from within to replace him, a Will Lockwood type of player waiting in the wings? So there is going to be a decision at some point made on Tyler Mott and sort of where he fits into all of this. But, in the short term, it gives some other guys opportunities. No Sutter. We talked about that. I wonder, Travis Green talked a little bit about some guys that really he thinks of as wingers, but maybe have some experience as centers. They may get an opportunity with no Sutter and no Paterson here to start camp. And then you look at, the reason this group went out and filled a lot of those spots with tweeners, whether it's Justin Dowling, whether it's Nick Patan, those types of players. These guys have NHL experience. Your buddy Phil DiGiuseppe, Rick. Those are guys that I'm going to absolutely be watching here at training camp because all of a sudden, there could be some spots available on the big league roster. And I would think rather than any raw rookie or a draft choice, maybe this is an opportunity for a guy like Klimovich to absolutely blow the doors off everybody. But I think I would be looking more in the direction of guys that have some NHL experience, that can be adaptable, can be versatile for this hockey club. And that's the reason. The Canucks went out and signed a lot of those guys to play in Abbotsford, but all of a sudden there may be some openings here on the NHL roster, at least to start the season.
Big time.
Delaney's okay. Taryn Langley inbox, people comparing you with the Marlon Brando, Colonel Kurtz in Apocalypse Now. Also, other people congratulating you on landing the lead role in Phantom of the Opera. Jeff, before we let you go, Jim Houston retiring. Just your opinion of Jim's career.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the all-time greats in Canadian broadcasting, and we think of him primarily as a hockey guy, but you can't discount the work that he did to get to the highest level of baseball as well, and just sounded so at home and comfortable there. And, I got to know Jim a little bit over the years, obviously, when he was the regional voice of the Vancouver Canucks and grew up. At times, he wouldn't want to hear me say I grew up listening to him, but he's a little bit older than I am. And he was just so good at what he did. And I think one of his legacies, and I kind of laughed yesterday because I don't think a lot of people think about it, but, every afternoon at 4:00 on a different channel, but Gino Reda comes on with a show that's called That's Hockey. And, that was born out of that call by Jim Houston back in his early days. Whenever there was a big hit or a fight, he'd give you the That's Hockey. And it goes along with Great Save Luongo and sort of those lasting, impactful calls of his. So he was terrific. Great broadcaster, great guy around the rink as well. I've had some time over the years to just sit and talk hockey with him. And, I like the fact that he's going out on his terms and still at the top of his game where, we're in a business where guys get jobs and they don't want to give them up. But you can understand why. These are great jobs. Even better when they turn lights on for you. But, some guys have been accused over the years of hanging on a little too long in those types of positions. I still think he had a lot of good years left in him, but he knows best, and he's doing it for family reasons and stepping away from the game while he was still very close to the top of the game. So good on him, and all the best to Jim Houston in his retirement.
When's his last call? Oh, it went over your head. Anyways, go.
It went over everyone's head, as a matter of fact. I think it went over Jeff's head, but I can't see it.
That's what they do in pubs and bars. They tell you last call, the lights are out. That's why I said it.
No, the lights come on.
No, before they come on, they say last call, Jeff. Last call.
Because last call was somebody else's talk show. But people remember Jim had a show. Remember Slapshots? He had
Yeah. He also did work on EA Sports. Hey, Jeff, thanks for this. Appreciate it.
But, of course, Rick would know all about last call. So,
yes, I would.
I'm going to shoot for daylight next week.
Yes.
Good. Maybe go outside next time.
Good plan. Good plan.
Thanks for this, Jeff.